Why Alex Pereira is going to outclass Magomed Ankalaev.
Here is the former UFC middleweight champion, former simultaneous two-division kickboxing champion, Alex Pereira.
This guy might be the best big game hunter I've ever seen in UFC history.
We've never seen this type of fighter. We are truly in the midst of something special.
He is, without doubt, one of the most dangerous strikers on planet Earth.
This guy is the fucking Punisher, just going through and mowing down world-class fighters one by one like this.
Where does Pereira go now to try to find some competition? There's a guy named Magomed Ankalaev out there.
From Dagestan, Russia.
Ankalaev is a beast. I mean, he's not just good everywhere, he's phenomenal everywhere.
Alex, stop running away from me.
Magomed vs. Alex is set to go down at UFC 313. And originally when this fight was announced, and even before this fight was announced, a lot of fans were curious to see how Pereira would deal with the wrestling of Ankalaev, and a lot of fans thought Ankalaev will be able to win and dominate Pereira. But I'm here to tell you the complete opposite is about to go down. I think Pereira is not only going to beat Ankalaev, but I think he's going to outclass him. But quickly, before we get the video started, for those of you who may not know, I'm JuicyMMA. I make opinionative MMA content, and if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. But anyways, let's get into it. When you talk about a guy in Alex Pereira, it's pretty clear that he's one of, if not the biggest stars the UFC has. As in 2024, he had one of the biggest years you could possibly have. As in terms of his performances, he got 3 wins, 3 KO finishes against Jamal Hill, Yuri Prochazka, and Khalil Roundtree, but it goes deeper than that. To start off the year in 2024, he headlined UFC 300, which is obviously the biggest event of the year, but honestly, it was one of the biggest events for the UFC, probably in the last 2 or 3 years. He also saved UFC 303 as the main event of that card fell through. He stepped in, took the main event against Yuri Prochazka in a rematch, and he was able to finish Yuri even more impressively than he was able to do so the first time. And for his third fight of 2024, he went up against Khalil Roundtree, and he was able to finish him once again by TKO in round 4. Obviously a tremendous year for Pereira. He saved the company a few different times, he headlined huge events, and most importantly, he was able to go 3-0 with 3 finishes, which just boosted his star power even further than what it was prior to 2024. But although Pereira was putting on very impressive performances, essentially knocking out everybody outside of Israel Adesanya the second time, there was still one thing that fans wanted to see, and that's Alex Pereira to go up against a wrestler and to see how he would fare. Because at this point, it's pretty clear that if a guy's going to stand with Pereira for 3 to 5 rounds, it's most likely that they're going to get knocked out. Outside of Israel Adesanya in his prime, it doesn't really seem like there's anybody else that could possibly match the striking ability of Alex Pereira. So what fans really wanted to see was how Pereira would deal against a true wrestler. And when you look at the 205-pound division, there's not many. There's some guys like Jan Blachowicz that could possibly look to wrestle. When Pereira did go up against Blachowicz, he did wrestle. He was able to take Pereira's back, but for the most part, he wasn't able to have all that much success. The closest thing in the 205-pound division to a true wrestler is Magomed Ankalaev. And after Magomed was able to put some wins together, after he was able to put on some impressive performances, a lot of fans wanted to see Pereira go up against Magomed. And originally when this fight was talked about being announced or put together, there was pre-fight betting odds that had Magomed as a -200 or even higher favorite. But after Magomed was able to put a couple wins together, and after Pereira was able to beat Roundtree in his most recent performance, we finally have a signed bout between these two, as Magomed vs. Alex are set to go down in the main event of UFC 313, and a lot of fans are very excited to see how Pereira would possibly fare against a wrestler. But a question that some of you may be wondering at this point is, why do I think Alex Pereira is going to outclass Magomed Ankalaev? Well, I feel this way for a couple different reasons, but the first reason that I want to touch upon is Pereira's overall skill set. Because when you watch watch Pereira out there, it's pretty clear that this guy has a ton of power, a ton of knockout power, but he's also extremely technical and analytical in the octagon as well. As on the feet, Pereira does a tremendous job at figuring out his opponents and utilizing his best weapons in order to finish his opponents. For example, when he goes up against a guy like Yuri Prochazka does keep his legs pretty susceptible to leg kicks, and obviously Alex has a tremendous leg kick. So what Alex was able to do is he was able to utilize those leg kicks, beat up Yuri's legs quite a bit, and then eventually a lot of other things would become available. The body jab, the jab to the head, of course the signature left hook, a head kick. There were so many more options for Pereira to use once Yuri's legs were compromised. And in the first fight, he was able to utilize that effectively, and in their second fight between Yuri and Alex, he was able to utilize it even more effectively. And Pereira is able to do a similar thing to a lot of guys. Of course, everybody knows the left hook is coming with Pereira, but Pereira does a great job at utilizing some of his other weapons to mask the left hook, and eventually once he's able to loosen up his opponents in other areas, he's then able to utilize that signature left hook and knock out his opponents. So overall, I definitely do think the fact that on the feet, Pereira is not only a guy who has a ton of power, but he's also very analytical, and he also does a great job at figuring out what his opponent's weaknesses are, is a huge reason for why I think he's going to outclass Magomed Ankalaev. But now, the next reason for why I think Alex is going to outclass Magomed is due to the actual style. Because on the feet, I do think there actually are a lot of openings for Pereira. Although Magomed is a pretty underrated striker, he does do a really nice job at breaking down and finishing a lot of guys in the 205-pound division. At the end of the day, I still think Pereira is going to find out and figure out how to finish and how to dominate Magomed Ankalaev. And I think a huge weapon that he's going to utilize are those leg kicks. As when you look at Magomed's fight against Jan Blachowicz, Jan was able to do a tremendous job at hurting both of Magomed's legs, forcing him to start shooting for takedowns from the third round going on. And I think Pereira could do a very similar thing. Pereira has even better leg kicks than Jan Blachowicz, and I think he'll be able to mask it a lot better than Jan was able to do, and really do some real damage to Magomed's legs. And going forward from there, that would allow Pereira to have two separate advantages. If Pereira is able to hurt Magomed's legs pretty significantly, it would then open up a lot of different things on the feet, but if Magomed's legs are hurt and he then decides to shoot for takedowns, it would make it a little bit easier for Pereira to stop them. As if both legs are hurt, obviously Magomed is not going to have as much drive and as much power on the takedowns that he goes for, and it would just make it a little bit easier to stop takedowns. But outside of those leg kicks, I do also think the body jab is going to come into pretty big effect in this fight, and I also think the head kick could possibly be a pretty big weapon for Alex Pereira. I think he's going to utilize all of his weapons he has on the feet, and I think he's going to utilize them to success. But of course, the biggest thing that jumps out to you about this stylistic matchup are those leg kicks. Now, also something that I touched upon before, which I do like going into this matchup, is Magomed Ankalaev doesn't necessarily have the best IQ. Because in that fight versus Jan Blachowicz, he did get his legs kicked out pretty significantly and hurt pretty significantly in the first two rounds, and only starting in round 3 did he decide to wrestle. And I think there is a very big possibility that something similar to that happens in this fight versus Alex Pereira. Obviously, he does have an advantage in the wrestling, but I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if he didn't look to utilize it, at least right away, and maybe he gets hurt for it. But I guess only time will tell what does end up happening in this matchup. But I will say I am extremely excited to see what does, because this definitely will be a nice test for Alex Pereira. I'm sure Magomed will wrestle, even though he said he wouldn't, and if theoretically he didn't wrestle at all in this matchup, Alex Pereira is just not a guy I'm willing to bet against essentially anybody in the UFC that's looking to do that. He's proven the ability to beat essentially everybody on the feet ever since making it to the company, and he's had too much kickboxing experience in the past. He has too much power in his hands, he has too much power in his legs, he's too technical. He's just not a guy I'm willing to bet against, at least if it's a stand-up fight. Now, of course, there is a possibility, and in my opinion, I think Magomed will go for takedowns, so it will be interesting to see what happens if that does occur. But as I said before in the video, I do still think Alex Pereira is going to find a way to win. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think Alex Pereira is going to find a way to win once again versus Magomed Ankalaev, or do you not think so? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, check one of these two videos popping up now, and until the next time, peace out, guys.